Hi, thank you. Just a quick reminder of what these workshops are. So every community board meeting we have, we're going to do just a quick update. First it's going to be just a quick update from Gareth on sort of how the build's going, to quick informal technical updates, and you'll still have the CapEx report and things Gareth usually does. Just a wee check-in here, and if you've got any sort of questions and things like that today, but the millions of people that are watching online, the community boards, most of them do a walk through the build of the Cromwell Memorial Hall today. Let's get a feel of how that build's coming along. So, if you've got any questions, post that. You're welcome to ask Gareth in public now. Otherwise, you're welcome to ask him later as well. And then the second bit is we are building our operational model sort of while we fly. And so, Jen's going to give a little bit of an overview of some of the things that we've done in that space in the last month, and then a quick overview of what our plan is for the month ahead. And the idea behind that is to just get a bit of direction from you as a board, just to make sure we're on track and, I guess, doing what you had hoped. And if there's anything that comes out of that, we will follow up with the report the next meeting, just to create a resolution and some clarity. I think one of the things we talked about last time was just making sure that we are noting some of these things, that when we are looking back and say years to come, we know why decisions were made. So I'll just flick over to Gareth, give a highlight reel of the past 6 months of build, and 6 weeks, and the 6 weeks. Not 6 months. It's all right.
So did everyone enjoy the walk? Except Sarah, who wasn't there.
Yeah. Last week. Sorry, last week. I did my week, but
So just a quick update on that. The crew are planning on having the roof on and dried in by the end of July. And effectively, that's when we're going to go into what I call a bit of a lull. But it's a lull from a point that you won't see much things happening physically on the outside of the building. There'll be a lot of internal structure going on, from mechanical works to cabling, that sort of stuff. So that's programmed between 6 and 8 months, I think. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll try and get some comms out in that period, just to let people know that things are still happening and carrying on with the build, and it actually hasn't come to a standstill. And then I'll take any questions from this morning, or anything that you're curious about.
Gareth?
Is there a webcam and is that available?
So we've got timescapes on there. We've got unlimited usage on that, or is it? Yeah. So effectively, we can send you some signing details onto the timescapes cam. I can show you quickly. It's a live camera that takes a photograph every 15 minutes. You can do it from your phone or your mobile, and you can also look at this in time lapse. So you can do from when we started the timescapes, and you can see the build come about. Don't ruin for yourself though. We are going to do part of their timescapes engagement is that they're going to pull together a presentation at the end of this whole thing and do the whole time lapse and a whole lot of other stuff that's associated with that, which should go live on our website, which would be really cool, something to watch.
Well, look at that, probably around August, we'll finish most of the episode.
Yeah.
So the first time lapse, but that might end up getting into a marketing piece as well. So that's where it is, we're still, everyone, that's what it is until July. 11 or so, but this is what it's doing.
Other? Cool. Well, we might flip in. Sorry, Bob.
Yeah, I was just going to say, do you expect that all the outside, cladding and all that sort of thing will be done by then?
We're kind of aiming for majority of the stuff. Remember, there's still a landscaping piece, and that comes at the end of the program. So, because you want to avoid all the heavy equipment driving over the piece and everything else.
Yeah.
So that's sort of last off the rank.
Okay.
But a large part of the outside of the building will be complete.
Yeah. It's only going we're investigating that, but not optimistic. We are going to see if we can start a portion of landscaping earlier, just in mind of anticipation 26.
Yeah.
because they're also growing season. So it is something they're exploring, but they're not 100% sure they've got. That's exactly as Gareth says, here the equipment going over mostly planted trees, it's not always out there.
And usually this time of harvest is that it's sort of late autumn, so yeah. Cool, all right. Well, might hand over into, I guess, just the operational model update and just a couple of key things that we've gone through the last 6 months, 6 weeks, God, and then the 6 weeks ahead. Thank you, Jen.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so this is just a list of some of the things we have been working on over the last 6 weeks or so. Funding applications, I'll go into a little bit of detail shortly. We've set up a risk register for operational risks to assess them by their impact on operational readiness and likeliness to occur. This list, it's a working list, and the project team have access to it and will add to it and review and update, and as we get closer to opening, we'll obviously be removing the risks from the list. Resource requirements, we're working on some job descriptions for how the facility is going to be run. They're based on other facilities and how they operate around New Zealand. We're working on that at the moment. Facility visits, I'll go into a little bit more detail. Same with us for the meet and greets, and I'll give you a bit of an update on what's to come for us in the next 6 weeks or so. So funding applications, I believe you're all aware that we have got $1.1 million from Central Lakes Trust confirmed. That's towards the museum fit out, landscaping and playground. We've got 2 applications in with lotteries at the moment. One for heritage and environment for the museum fit out, and one to community facilities for the build. So we're likely to hear about those in June. And we're also looking to apply to a Sabre Community Trust, and we're probably submitting that now. So we'll give you an update on the outcome of all of those in due course. And so some facility visits. Financial model is built on other facilities around New Zealand, and these 2 in particular have sort of been part of the research that we've undertaken. And so visiting these facilities has been really useful just to get an understanding of how they're operating. So Whirinaki Wharetonga is in a hut, and Te Pō o Mata'o is in Balfuta. Whirinaki is a really established multi-use facility. Tacoma is much newer. They've been open for about 18 months, I think, and they're multi-use and sort of more of a community hub operation. So both really good examples for us to just get an understanding of and learn from, essentially. So a couple of information gathering sort of sessions. On the facility usage, scheduling, usage of each of the spaces, things like if you've got a really large function happening in one part of the building, what does that mean for other spaces and how can they work while that function is happening? Operations, so booking systems, thoughts on some good ones and not so good ones. Maintenance, leases, so Whirinaki have a cafe that they lease out as part of their operations, so it's similar to what we are hoping to do. Te Poma, they lease some of their spaces to council, their local council, and they're looking to lease more too. So that's an interesting thing from sales staffing structures, how many FTE and the sorts of roles that are required to have a facility like this come in. Revenue, so we've talked to them about their fees and charges structures and other revenue sources. And also just some market analysis, just some of their connections, competitors, just how they're working in their local markets.
It's been great to go into these places and just understand, I guess, one of the questions I've asked them is that if you started over, what would you do differently? And it's been great to get that list because we're able to pick up on some of those things and implement them a little bit earlier. And then just as Jen was saying, sort of around staffing and structures, we're sort of in the sort of getting just based on the, I guess, the financial model that we presented in the last workshop. We've just been putting together our staffing structure based on that, and fairly confident around the level of investment that's required to achieve the level of service that the board would like, and that financial model that's in there. And these two facilities here, as well as another couple of ranges, have been sort of instrumental in helping us understand that based on their own experience. And then the second bit as well is around the culture that we need to try and achieve so that our community and visitors can have a pretty epic experience when they're in there too. So, yeah.
So some stakeholder updates. So at Cromwell Museum, we've got a relatively regular 6-weekly-ish catch up with Martin and Jennifer Hay. They, along with Story Inc., have been working on the design for the fit out of the new museum. So we're hoping that we might have concept design to share with you guys at the next workshop. At the RSA, we've met with Dennis, president of the RSA, and just had a good conversation with him and how he's feeling about progress and the facility from an RSA perspective, and I'll keep connecting him with him just to keep that relationship going and keep him up to date with progress. Okaha, we spent a few hours with Okaha, which is really interesting. Just really for us to get a better understanding of the cultural elements of the design. Aroha, who is the artist and project lead for our project, and we're hoping that she will be able to come and talk to you guys and explain the design elements and stories behind them and their significance. And ideally that's in the next couple of workshops too. Thank you.
Yeah, and that cultural narrative on, I guess, Cromwell and how it sort of connects all the way up and down Aotearoa as well. It's been a pretty interesting journey. We spent a good half day down there with them last week, just understanding how it's all come to be. So running soon. Hopefully the next meeting is what we'll aim for on that. Yeah.
And expressions of interest. Before we go out to tender, we're going to go to market for expressions of interest to run the cafe or the cinema or both, and that's just to check market appetite at this stage.
I think that's one of the best ways of doing it, to go out and just see what is in the market. There's been just looking at these other facilities. That's generally how they've gone out as well. And I think when we do get some expressions of interest come back, we'll be able to just test, I guess, the experience you're hoping to achieve with what maybe the market could provide. And I think this is probably going to be the best way of doing it. So that's probably just a check in there, but the board is happy with that direction for us to go out and look for expressions of interest of releasing the cafe and cinema. As to the totality of what that would look like, don't know yet. That would be based on some of the things that came back, and then we would obviously go through a normal tendering process. But I thought that this might be the best way for us to be able to step out and understand what's in the market for us. Is the board comfortable with that direction? Yeah.
Okay. So next, so these are some of the things we'll be focusing on over the next while. Marketing communication strategy, we'd like to bring that to you at your next workshop too, just so you're comfortable with our approach there. Fees and charges, bring you a starting point, just to get more feedback and direction on that. Hopefully we'll go through the concept design for the museum fit out and have a presentation from Arupa at Okaha. So there's quite a few things to be covering on next time. Furniture and fit out is the other thing we'd really like some feedback and direction on. So that's
Nice.
student.
Yeah, just on the fees and charges piece, that's been a little bit of a conversation here at a board level. We've again gone out to the other facilities that we're working with and been able to get their fees and charges and how they differentiate between commercial and community. So over the next sort of month or so, we're going to work through just probably an amalgamation of all of those for the board to have a little look at. And the hope with this is that we can have that added into council's fees and charges in the June period as part of the long-term plan. So we can sort of start accepting and charging bookings from 1 July this year. So that's sort of the runway from, officially getting bookings and locking things in and all of that kind of stuff. And just on that, I guess we've had probably 5 or 6 interested people now reach out to us wanting to look to book in from singers, not Taylor Swift yet, unfortunately.
God,
Sorry, yeah. Through to people wanting to have their Christmas functions and stuff. So, how are we for time? That's pretty good. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's me.
Yeah.
Questions and thoughts?
Is there a clear part in Okaha's scope for deliverables at the end? Like they've obviously had design influence for a lot of pieces of the hall and the grounds and whatnot. I feel like that wouldn't be for much if it wasn't expressed quite clearly with some sort of information boards or some sort of storytelling, selling the dream basically before it opens and then after it opens.
One of the great things we did when we were down in Dunedin, I don't know if you've done the Main Street, but Okaha were fairly involved with the development of the Main Street, and so they've got a whole lot of sort of signage and things throughout the Main Street that help tell some of their story. And that's also a project that we have in council that's going to be a little bit ahead of us at the River Park, a little bit smaller, but River Park down in Alexandra. We're working with Okaha on that and telling the stories of the area and stuff, what that looks like through signage and I guess the different designs that are in here as well. And that was, I guess, a piece that I found really interesting, I guess, as we're sort of on our induction journey, is a lot of the design and storytelling has been incorporated into, I guess, the landscaping and the build of the design. And that's where I think it's really important for us to have that workshop with them explaining some of this. And so we can have some of these questions and things like that sort of in the future at some point too. So, yeah, good question.
At some stage we need to have a conversation about the granular stuff.
Yeah.
And it's, in my view, sooner than later.
Yeah.
It's pretty important to get it. It's who knows what it look. We don't know what it's going to be. We need to work out what it's going to be. We don't want to be in a situation where for some reason we find ourselves arms out of the back and we make a call about it because X, Y, Z, A, B, C.
Yeah.
It's either going to be simple or it's going to be protracted, one of the two.
Yeah.
I like simple.
You know what we'll end up.
Well, it's got to be something that's what's the word, not expecting.
Yeah.
If you're on a journey about how that ends up being right. And that's why I think starting sooner than later is really important.
The thought behind this was that we can start that journey in 6 weeks' time and talk through some of the landscape and some of the narrative that's there, just so everybody understands the full picture of, I guess, the significance of the site for lots and lots of different communities, from, I guess, the RSA all the way through to locals that have been here for multi-generations. And so I think this bit here is going to help us sort of tell even more of the completeness of that story, and then we can continue the conversation from there. So, yeah. So we can add that to the list, but April, we might need a little longer workshop if that's right, don't you?
It's not
I
like
think we're probably going to be at a point in April where a longer workshop is definitely
Yeah.
required for us to get our heads around the work that has been going on in the background and to
Yeah.
make sure that the board is fully aware of all of these things.
Yeah.
As you know, we're really keen to see the contents of that cultural narrative.
Yeah.
Fully understand that having it presented to us by Okaha is probably the best way for us to understand it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, is it May, is it? It's the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll be organised for April.
within the meeting.
Like to be a good game. Yeah. Cool. All right. So I guess that was sort of, it's a good idea of the steer that for us, to be able to achieve from this. And then we have, I guess, our first, recommendation paper for the board to consider as well. And that's, I guess, the first sort of complete process that this has been through. And hopefully what we've taken from that, you're able to see in the recommendations there, but it'll be a good place for us to just sound check that you know, what you're saying is what we're hearing and vice versa. Yeah. Cool.
Oh,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cheers.
Thank you so much for the walk around today. For those of us who were able to make it, it was,
I did go last week, like I literally just went. I got heaps from beer, so I went to.
Oh,
I don't want to.
I'm coming with you next time.
Well,
Derek did that one quiet.
I was saying I'm thinking, what you're up with, I think the so I got heaps from beer.
Get a cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's always on.